Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. For some time, as you know, I've been concerned about the mental health of the Socialist Spice Girls, perhaps most particularly Representative Ilhan Omar, and now I'm very concerned.
Well, she was with Sheila Jackson and a bunch of other...
That's Sheila Jackson Lee to you.
Yeah, sorry, Sheila Jackson Lee. Excuse me, Dan. And Sheila Jackson Lee was talking about, what was going on in Iran, and Omar was standing behind her and laughing uncontrollably. And then she went to Talib to try and stop laughing, and then she turned around and started laughing again. Then she had to explain herself when it was her turn at the lectern.
Thank you, Ro. I feel ill a little bit because of everything that is taking place, and I think every time I hear about conversations around war, I find myself being stricken with PTSD, and I find peace knowing that I serve with great advocates for peace and people who have shown courage against war.
PTSD, you mean like that other lawmaker had in the community level?
Sorry, I'm having a panic attack.
You need medical attention? Would you like me to call you an ambulance?
I can't.
Okay, if you want to sit down, I can explain this to you, okay?
You better give me a ticket. I'm going to take it to the court because I have...
Ma'am, you have to calm down.
I have PTSD.
Yeah, that was New York politician Jennifer Schwartz Berkey.
Uh-huh.
So maybe
When
that's
she was
where
pulled over for a parking violation or moving
speeding
violation.
ticket.
Speeding ticket, yeah.
That's perhaps that's where Ilhan Omar got the idea, or just sort of feeling the same things. I'll tell you, these are difficult times for the mullahs in Tehran, and difficult times for some members of Congress like Representative Omar as well. Perhaps Chuck De Caro can provide some palliative care. He is CNN's very first special assignment correspondent. He served with the 20th Special Forces Airborne, outside consultant to the Pentagon's Office of Net Assessment for 25 years, and contributor to embargo.com. Chuck De Caro, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Morning, Dan. Morning, Amy. How are you?
Morning. What about that Trump's policies here, making it very difficult for our legislators like Representative Omar to do her job because they're so troubling and have such an impact on her mental health?
Yeah, well, mental health and Omar, this calls for debate right there.
Sure, perhaps a guardian should be assigned. Yeah.
Yeah, or several. But I haven't heard that. I'm in Italy right now, and over the last 48 hours, the internet here has been extraordinarily slow because everybody was using it to figure out what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
So I was not aware of Omar's latest plea for help with her PTSD, but I'd wonder what her constituents would say is, well, if she can't think because she has PTSD, why would we want to reelect her?
Yep, very good point.
I don't know if it's become...
Well, in addition,
should be obvious to people.
Yeah, in addition to that, I mean, it's appropriate to ridicule her, but there's also something that's really insulting about it, and many veterans have taken umbrage at that statement because it cheapens the PTSD that they are suffering from, because of their combat duty.
Oh, I concur. And if you get PTSD from misstatements from the administration, do her constituents really want her to be their representative because she can't think properly because she has bouts of PTSD every day? Not so sure about that one, Dan.
One of the pieces you recently penned for emgreatness.com, you suggest some policies for the administration. President Trump announcing yesterday, Iran standing down, new sanctions being imposed to try to incentivize better behavior but opening up a diplomatic channel for them to do so, and trying to enlist our Western allies to put pressure on them to behave better as well, meaning, stop being a state sponsor of terror. One of the things you suggested it could be an avenue for additional pressure is an electronic embargo on Iran. Explain what you mean.
Yeah, in 1945, when the UN was still in San Francisco, they wrote up the UN Charter, and in it there are 3 articles of interest. Article 40 is for censure, which has been done to Israel a couple of times. The other one is Article 42, which is active combat operations, which we saw in Korea during the Korean War, and, for peacekeeping and peace enforcement missions around the world since 1945. But the one in the middle is Article 41, obviously, and it talks about embargoes. But in the fine print, it says air, rail, telephonic, and other means of communication. So heretofore, the UN has used physical embargoes. So you can't have this oil, and you can't have that wheat, and you can't have these arms, things. But, the framers of the UN Charter were thinking even back then about means of communication. Before the internet, before bytes, before transistors, there was this coda in the embargo part in Article 41. It says, interrupting means of telephonic, telegraphic, and other means of communication. So imagine what could be done if under the existing embargoes, assuming that the language is correct, you then went to embargo bytes, B-Y-T-E-S, bytes, little packets of information that go back and forth on various electronic distribution systems, and just stop it. Now, if you're trying to run a modern state whose primary source of wealth is the recovery and distribution of petroleum, you're going to need computers to do that. And if suddenly they all went out, you would have some problems. Given that the mullah's biggest problem is cash flow, you could really affect them directly by embargoing telecommunications. And that was the proposal I put forth in American Greatness.
Well, so you could do. There's layers to this, right? I mean, you could potentially cripple their Air Defense Command and other military-related command centers. You could interrupt the propaganda that they push through communication channels, and perhaps push your own messaging to the Iranian people around the mullahs. There's sort of a lot of options here if you gain control of their comm infrastructure, right?
That's correct. The problem is no one's ever done this before, and to the best of my knowledge, no one's ever proposed it before. But it's in there, in the Article 41 wordage, verbiage. So yeah, you could do that and create a lot of havoc without having to drop bombs on people. You might have to bomb a telecommunications relay station, or you might have to fly around with something we call CHAMP, C-H-A-M-P, which is a remotely piloted vehicle that sends out pulses of electromagnetic radiation enough so that you can take out, operating computer chips at, relatively short ranges. And you could cause a good deal of consternation if you had a coordinated electronic attack. And because the word is interrupt and the word interrupt isn't defined, you could take out their stuff and put in your stuff and still be under the definition of the word interrupt. So there's a lot of things that you could do. Again, the language is there, but there's been no precedent for such a thing.
The other thing that's interesting about the dynamic in 2020, as opposed to previous administrations and previous generations, going back at least to 1979, is that because of the fracking revolution, America is not so dependent on foreign oil these days. And so when sanctions have been imposed on Iran, reimposed on Iran by Trump, crippling their oil exports, and now this confrontation over the last several days, you really haven't seen price spikes in gas and domestic price spikes in gas in this country because we're energy independent in a way that we haven't been. And so this is sort of an illustration of what a lot of politicians talked about throughout those generations. We need to be energy independent. It's a national security issue, and this is proof positive.
Well, you're absolutely correct. I'd also add to the fracking revolution deregulation. Since the end of the Obama administration and the beginning of the Trump administration, by deregulating, where you could go for oil, we've now our energy independence. So part of that is technical, the other one is regulatory, and we might want to continue along that road. In addition to this, if you're going to do anything that's going to interrupt the supply, you need to have conversations with those people who are extraordinarily dependent on Iranian oil, like the Chinese, to sort of put them in a position that, we would be supportive of their national needs for a price, even if there's a backlog of delivering oil from Iran. Remember, not only are there restrictions on their export of oil, but they deal, a lot with under the table operations, so that they seem to be, participating in the embargo, but somehow there's still a cash flow.
So Chuck, all right. Well, as your time as a CNN first special assignment correspondent and your time with the 20th Special Forces Group, were you familiar with Soleimani's sinister and murderous ways, and do you think that the strike on him was justifiable?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we've done this. We've been doing these kinds of operations a very long time. I would recommend the book President's Secret Wars by John Prados, which is a catalog of covert operations dating from World War II through the Reagan administration and a little bit further. Now, I don't agree with John's point of view, but I think as a catalog of these kinds of things, there's nothing new about taking out guys like Soleimani. Now, that's it. It was true 70 years ago, 100 years ago, and remains true today. There are operations that are done in the dark, called covert operations, that whether a president is liberal or conservative, when he sees pressure against the national security of the United States, there's a propensity for them to act. And I can give you lots of examples. Hell, the reason why the Shah got in was a CIA and British MI6 operation in 1948, I believe, to oust Mossadegh and put the Shah in. And, that stayed through until the Carter administration in 1979 sent General Vaughan to Iran to try to convince the Shah to come out. And you've seen what's happened by trying to be goody two-shoes. Instead of supporting the Shah, or, whatever the kind of guy he was, at least on our side, to then give a revolutionary theocracy control of the amount of oil that Iran produced, you end up with the results that you see now. They're on the verge of having nuclear weapons. They use ballistic missiles when they feel like it. And so I kind of think that, maintaining the idea of utilization of covert operations is a good one.
He is Chuck De Caro, served with the 20th Special Forces Group, Airborne, outside consultant for the Pentagon's Office of Net Assessment for more than 2 decades, and contributor to American Greatness, amgreatness.com. Chuck, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, and hope to see you next time, Dan and Amy. Bye now.
Enjoy Italy, yeah.
Yes. Arrivederci. That's my Italian. And he joined us on
Wonderful.
Thank you so much. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper, hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Now that winter's here, how's your fireplace and chimney? Before you light the first fire, have your chimney cleaned and inspected by Chicagoland's most trusted fireplace and chimney company. The experts at Fireplace and Chimney Authority will give your family peace of mind that your fireplace is safe and works properly all season long. And if you call today, get $45 off a cleaning and inspection. You'll be all set. Since 1995, Fireplace and Chimney Authority has been the favorite for everything fireplace and chimney. For a limited time, get 10% off any new purchase of a fireplace, new doors, gas logs, insert, or fireplace tool sets and screens. With record-breaking cold predicted this winter, now is a great time to update your existing fireplace or add a new fireplace to your home. Remember to get your fireplace serviced this winter and receive $45 off your chimney cleaning and inspection. Call Fireplace and Chimney Authority now, 630-279-8500, or visit online